Hello, Culture Matters podcast. I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest. Before I do that, here is a quote I picked just for this episode. To be an investor, you must be a believer in a better tomorrow. Benjamin Graham. I'm here with my dear friend, Pete Fournier, founder of All Things Insurance Group. I like to say, as of 5 minutes ago, competing against the worst while being the best. Episode 134 was actually our last time together. If you haven't heard that episode, listen to that episode. That'll bring you to the previous time that Pete's been on, all different conversation. Pete's been, first of all, a mentor to people in the insurance space and how to really be that trusted advisor, that counsel. He has a sign behind him. You may not be able to say it says sling it because it's sling in sales. He's taught sales training and been a leader in the industry. And the last time we got together, there was over 374 or so people that decided to actually follow his lead in the industry. So whether you're in the industry or not, or you're just a human that would like to, quote, to be an investor, you must be a believer in a better tomorrow. We're all investors into our future in a sense, right? Pete's somebody you want to listen to. So thanks for coming on, man. Thanks for coming back.
Thanks for having me back. I appreciate it.
It's fun, man. It's all things fun.
Yeah, that's correct.
I firstly, let those that haven't experienced episode 134 yet, aren't familiar with your training. You started a new business within the last year, correct?
Yeah, November of 2021 was the inception date, technically. So we're going on, it'll be 2 years, which is so nuts, this November.
There are people, 2 years this November. Yeah. There are people listening to this that may be in that position now or thinking about doing that because of wherever they're at in their industry. Things might be slowing down. They may have some level of resources to take that leap, whether it's resourcefulness psychologically or capital or a bit of both. It's like, what's the master class on how to win in this market?
Yeah,
let's start with that. I mean, that would be.
So initially, it's if you're feeling that you're capped out, you got to do something different. And I've always thrived, even though it's very stressful at times, of being comfortable in the uncomfortable and not taking this leap of faith and believing in myself and my future agents, because I really didn't have any when I first started. We had like 14.
Wow.
When we were first talking about the inception of All Things Insurance Group. Just believing in myself and trying to break through that, what I felt like was a glass ceiling initially. I feel like I was capped out both in income and kind of drive, if you will. And a lot of people, I feel like, they make decent money and they're comfortable and they want a really heavy work-life balance. I'm just not that guy. So if you're a maniac like myself, feel free to take the plunge because being uncomfortable will get you to that next tier, truthfully.
What about the first 30 days? There might be people right now that can't even pay their.
Dude. So like, I'm sure Meg will listen to this, but she already knows the number. Like we put up multiple six figures starting this thing in the first 9 months. To the tune of almost 300,000, which maybe not a lot of money to some of your listeners or viewers, but to me it was. And especially when nothing's really coming in, we had a couple agents, we had 14, but we had a couple, right? In the grand scheme of things. And I was still out producing, but a lot of the output was way outweighing the input. You're seeing thousands of dollars go out and hundreds of dollars come in, and it's terrifying. But knowing what I know and feeling like I was an expert in my field, also having the confidence and drive, knowing that if anyone's going to do it, I can do it. You try not to compare yourself constantly because I believe comparison can kill you. But in the same token, you look around my space or anybody else's space or industry, and you see people that are succeeding and you're like, man, I'm way better than that person. So if they can do it, I could sure as hell do it. So you got to get through that 30-day, 90-day, and I would say 6-month window. I didn't really start seeing the light until about 7 or 8 months in. And even still, it was like, oh, you had these tiny successes, but here comes the trouble again to punch you in the face. So you just got to keep the train moving, because as soon as you stop, then you're dead. You know.
What type of schedule were you running, and even in now? Like we're doing this on a Sunday, for example.
Yeah. Yep. So today's Sunday. I'm in the office, which I don't know if I had the office episode.
Not the first time we did this.
Right. Yes, this is the last time we did. So yeah, my schedule for the first year was insanity. Granted, my wife and I were gluttons for punishment. I think over the last couple of years, we built a house, we got married, we got pregnant, we got a dog. I started a company.
Wow.
And it's like over a 2.5 year span. So my schedule was kind of nuts. There was some stress at home. Like I was probably running 10, 12-hour days easily, if not doing some extra stuff like podcasts or whatever for 15 or 16 hours, because I had to produce on my own pen, plus train agents, plus get more agents, plus have marketing conversations and whatever. So I was wearing every single hat. I still am a little bit to this day, but we can get into that about offloading a lot of tasks that you're not good at. But I was wearing every hat in the beginning. And the real thing that I think grounded me is thinking about other businesses. Like in this grand scheme of things, we're selling intangibles, right? So unless you're doing extensive marketing or you want $7,000 in signs around your office or whatever, the expenses aren't so crazy as if maybe I was going to come out with like a steakhouse and I'm in the whole 1.6 million from day one or whatever. So seeing losses, quote unquote, your first 3, 6, 9 months, and then really start seeing profits and being in the black after your first year, that's a good business. Like some businesses aren't profitable for years and years and years. So I think doing research and looking at other industries and comparing yours to theirs really makes you feel a little bit more at peace, knowing that some business owners are going 36, 48, 60 months with not one piece of profitability.
Wait, business owners make money?
Yeah, not on paper, right? If the IRS is listening.
Holy cow, this is a revelation.
It's wild. So just knowing that, like, I was in the hole for a short time and being able to profit and get out of it relatively quickly compared to other industries keeps you going,
What's your counsel to someone that, is having a hard time, high producer, earning the money, now in a position of having to put that back into something?
Yeah.
Is there a psychological battle there, or a way that you work through that?
You have to find the right people. If you're in a recruiting mode or a hiring mode or whatever, and I'm in a hiring phase now from like a W-2 perspective, more so than for agents. We're still onboarding weekly salespeople, but I need admin staff and contracting and probably a COO now. You're gonna take a loss. You just are. If you're a $1 million producer in whatever industry that you're in, car sales, insurance, solar, whatever, and you want to build an actual business for yourself, you're going to take a hit. You may not think that, but you're going to take a serious income hit, at least for the first 9 months, 12 months, because you have to multiply yourself. That's the whole point. Otherwise, we don't have anything that's scalable. I mean, I have my client book, and I know I can go make $1 million on my own personal pen selling insurance, but when am I going to do that till I'm 70? Like, I want to build something that I can either leave behind or sell or whatever. So you got to remember that your 40 hours a week are fine, but you have to ramp it up where you get 3, 4, 5 people. So now you're generating 200 hours a week of work, as opposed to just 40 on your own pen. And you got to pay for that. There's no real other way to do it. You're either paying with tangible money or loss of income, but you're paying.
Are we all cut out for it?
No. Some days I didn't think I was cut out for it. You get that the negativity spins, as we like to call them, where you're laying in bed and you're like, Jesus, should I even do this? Should I just write business on my own or whatever. So no, most people are not cut out for it. Either they go in too fast and they don't have expertise. They think they're the shit, but they've only been doing XYZ industry for a year or two, and now they want to build this giant business. I mean, more power to you, but the failure rate is way more often than not. I think in our industry, which is insurance, restaurants, brick and mortar, whatever, heavy majority of businesses fail in the first 2 years, just across the board. So you gotta be mentally tough and financially semi-sound to be able to start something like this. You can't be broke and start a business. You know, you gotta produce, get your self-income up, and then spend some money to be able
you've
to create
clearly delineated that you're not a motivational speaker.
I'm a realist.
Yeah, I love it. It's like, oh, what a real guy Pete is. He's just like honest guy here. How important has it been to have that level of prudence? I guess the self-awareness to understand, all right, we gotta have this here, we gotta have this here, and I still gotta do all these other things.
Yeah, and I hate doing the other things. Like, you know me well enough. I'm not an administrative person. I'm not a paperwork person. If you hired me as your COO, you would fire me in 48 hours. Like, I am just not that human. But you have to, if that's the worst part of the day, is filling out licensing and paperwork and signing off on an office lease, or, you know, being on a attorney phone call for an hour and a half or whatever, you got to get through the muck and the mud, or again, you got to spend money for other people to do it. So if you have that luxury, great. I didn't in the beginning, because you're shelling out for other stuff to create sales. But you have to be able to keep going, and just know that the stuff that you don't like doing, hell, you're probably going to have to do that for an XYZ amount of time. Like, I'm trying to scale this thing over the next 10 years. So I'm worth $200, $300, $400 million. If I need to punt my first 24 months in business doing shit that I don't like to be having that evaluation later, screw it. It doesn't matter. I may hate it in the moment, but it's over very fast. And I'm not shoveling shit for a living. There are people out there doing manual labor and washing dishes and laying concrete and whatever, and they may like it, they may not. But I don't like manual labor, and I'm not doing that. I just got to fill out some paperwork, which sucks, you know? So it's really putting things into perspective and having to level yourself out every once in a while, not get too wrapped up in like, oh, this sucks. Because if you think that, it will suck, you know?
That's a strong vision, you know, to think 10 years out that way. Let's say someone listening is thinking, I don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
What's your advice?
So you got to start with something that you're passionate about first and foremost. If you don't have passion in the thing, and I thought about writing a book a long time ago called Profiting from Your Passions, because I think it's very important. Maybe someday I will. But like, in my grand scheme of life, I have some fun stuff, but like, I played in some professional racquetball tournaments. Now I'm getting into pickleball. I trade watches every once in a while. I traded Pokemon cards and Magic cards back in the day. Like, everything I do, even if it's a hobby, has some monetary value attached to that.
Wow.
So, in the insurance space, I'm very passionate about the business. I've been in it for almost 13 years. I've seen it come to fruition with death claims. I've seen it come to fruition from an agent perspective of them making shitloads of money. So I firmly believe in it, and I'm passionate about it. If you told me that I had to create a landscaping business, I would probably fail, because I don't give a shit about my yard. Like, I'd pay someone to do that. You know what I mean? So first and foremost, you have to like it. If you don't, you'll never get through the hard times, because there will be hard times. Number two, you have to create a business for yourself that can be profitable. Like, everybody that I've talked to has had one instance or another where they're like, man, it'd be badass to own a bar. And then that goes away in a fleeting moment, because most bars go out of business like a terrible business plan, right? So I
haven't met anyone that did that and enjoyed it.
No, it usually sucks. Or it's a labor of love.
You can't even drink.
Yeah. It's like not the play. So having a mentor, someone to run it by, granted, people will tell you you're nuts, you know, which is okay too. But having a viable business or business plan where you know you're going to be profitable. And I don't know much about tangibles. Like I wouldn't be able to speak to your audience about selling widgets. But I know the insurance business is extremely profitable. It's the only one out there that's pretty much recession proof, because whether the market's up, down, or sideways, people need insurance, whether legally or voluntarily, they just need it. So I think that's really important too. Pipe dreams are great, but it's got to be profitable. If it's not, then it's just a hobby. You know what I mean?
How have you gotten clear on, all right, this is where I want in 10 years? And where, if you were giving counsel to, those that are like, all right, check, passionate, check. I think my industry is profitable. I've succeeded. I've got some mentors and things. But like, I don't know how to think 10 years out. Like Pete's saying, he's already thinking, he knows where he's going.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to breathe right now.
Yeah. I'm trying to breathe. I'm trying to pay my water bill. I'm trying to, I think an important exercise, and I can run through it with your audience real quick if I have. So when I do in-person trainings for my agents, I do these all the time. So I make them do, and there's a lot of insurance jargon on it, but a really important thing is knowing what your comfort zone income is first and foremost. Like, where do I need to, first of all, knowing your bills is important. Let's start there, right? Knowing your mandatory income is important. Like, I need to make $5,000 to live, or whatever it is, right? I need to make $3,600 a month to live, or they're going to take my house from me, or I can't eat, right? So knowing your baseline in terms of bills. And then knowing what your comfort zone income is extremely important. Not like I'm killing it, but to your point, I can breathe on a daily basis, right? I'm not where I want to be, but like the world's not ending at this income level, right? And then after that, it's where your like wealthy zone is to you right now. And I do this on a monthly basis, and every month it freaking changes. And I don't look at my prior ones. I just, you do blank slate every single month, and you can watch the progression. So where's your wealthy zone? Like, where would you feel like you were balling out on a monthly basis? And write that down. And then 30, 60, 90, 120, 6-month and annual income commitments for yourself. Like, I pull the Gary V, and my agents think I'm nuts sometimes, but I'm like, listen, gun to your family's head, not even to your head, because some people are like sacrificial lambs and they don't give a shit, right? Gun to your family's head. How much money are you committing to making 30, 60, 90 days, 120 days, 6 months, and a year? And that's a very small exercise that you can do on a weekly, monthly basis to see if, one, you're cut out for creating XYZ business, and two, mapping your future. Because no matter what, if you're doing this on a monthly basis, your answers are not going to stay the same. You'll have wins, you'll have losses, you'll have stagnation. But every single month that I've done it for the past like 9-10 months, my answers are always different. And traditionally, they're always going up. So what's my mandatory bills? Well, that goes up every single month, no matter what. I'm onboarding more people, I'm hiring more people.
Yeah.
Comfort zone increases, right? Then your wealthy zone increases. Then your commitments increase, because you probably already hit the commitments that you made last 30, 60, 90 days. So I think that's very important to have line of sight into what your own vision is. Short-term goals are very important off the bat. A lot of people, like you said, Jay, can't be like, this is where I want to be when I'm retired. That's so far in advance, it's crazy. But I can see 10 years out. But start with the short term, and it'll help you project the long term for sure.
Even since the last time we spoke, like, what are you seeing on Main Street as far as what's in the air? Fear, excitement, a little bit of both. What's happening out there?
A lot of excitement and a lot of growing pains, which is a good thing to have. So like, my transition in this very short time frame has been, all right, Pete, you put it all on your shoulders. You're going to get agents in, you're going to get contracting up and running, you're going to get new carriers, you're going to get higher comps, you're going to do this, that, and the other thing, and you're still going to sell to maintain the damn business. Then we went from like 14 to like 370 something in the span of time that we talked. Huge growth. over the course of a year, 18 months, right? Now we're a little over 515. I think the last tally was 517 in terms of total agents that we have on board. So now it's growing pains I'm okay with spending on marketing. I'm okay with spending on advertising, lead gen, things that I can touch and say there's tangible ROI to this. What I had to break the mold on now is saying, I really need an internal contracting person that sits right over there. I can't use virtual assistants anymore. I need to pay extra so I could be like, yo, Johnny or yo, Becky, what's going on with Johnny Smith's contract? And they can just yell back, you know?
Yeah.
I need a commissions processing team, at least one person internally. Because again, I'm using VAs, and like, if you have virtual assistants or you have an admin out of town and it works for you, that's great. For us, it's just very hard for me running on all cylinders to ask a question and then wait 9 hours for a response. I want to be like, yo, I need this by the end of the day, and you're sitting right there, so get it to me. You know what I mean? And that's just a comfort thing for me to be able to work in my highest element, is to have people right. That's why I bought the friggin' office. You know what I mean? So that's something I had to learn, is I know I'm going to add, I don't know, $150,000, $160,000 in salaries over the next 90 days. And that like hurts, because you can't have a tangible return on investment on that salary yet. Maybe after a year, you can look at your P&L and be like, oh my God, I offloaded all this stuff and it feels so good. But spending that money on that versus lead gen, at least over here, I could be like, well, we're going to 3x our money no matter what. So it's fine.
Do you think it's hard, even just implicitly, for sales entrepreneurial types? Like, we have to learn that. We just have to learn it by unlearning certain things.
And
it's hard to conceptualize that ROI, you think, for us entrepreneurs?
I think it's hard for entrepreneurs that are also like salespeople. Like, you're a salesperson, Jay. I'm a salesperson. You know what I mean? I'm not Mark Cuban. I don't have that like
not yet.
Right. Yeah, monetarily maybe, but I don't have like that tech COO. Like, I feel like Mark, I'm talking for him, but he's very analytical and very like, he's still a monster and can be a salesperson. I think he's one of the greatest salespeople ever, but he's got that other side down pat. I don't. I'm not good at it. I could probably learn it, but I feel like my time is better served doing other things. So from that standpoint, I think it's harder. You're sales first, ROI driven first, money in, money out first. And now you got to offload a bunch of admin tasks and pay for it. And then there's no tangible, what did I get out of that over the last 90 days? I got time, which is worth something, but it's just a hard pill to swallow in the beginning.
It just makes me think like why I have to just continue to worship Jenna. She's a COO background, came in, and then of course we grew because, you know, was running around slinging.
Yeah.
And, it's so exciting to see. I just thought of like a couple steps ahead, and even like imagine the audience, what a gift, because the last time we talked, you were at 374. Before that, you and your apostles, and I can only think like a year from now, we'll have a conversation. Yeah, we're at 3,000. And then like a couple of years, yeah, we're going public. It's like, imagine the journey for the audience over time to hear that. Like, so my question in that is, in hindsight, did you know, when you go back to when you were watching The Secret 50 times, thinking about, you know, at one point you were like over 50,000 in credit card debt, you had said, because correct me if I'm wrong, but there had been a lesson in being liable for policies sold, the long tail, and like all that hardship. So my question is, when you were sitting there, if you look back in hindsight, you ever think you'd be here in this position the way you're in it?
Yes and no. I always had the confidence and sometimes the cockiness to know that I was going to do something huge, and I don't want to like go through life without doing something huge. Like, I'm just not that 60 grand a year W-2 like mindset. I just can't, first of all, I can't sit still for a living. So why not use that, weird superpower to make something gigantic? But I think my focus was so much on I always wanted to be the best salesperson. I wasn't necessarily a business owner. Even when I was recruiting agents and bringing on teams and stuff, you're a glorified MLM. You help, you mentor, you're financially liable for them. Plus you feel like you think you need to help them pay their bills. Like, so to some extent, I guess I would say you're more of a mentor than a business owner. So at that time, I would say between 2010 and 2014, 2015, never saw myself like owning an IMO. I just wanted to make millions of dollars and be a great salesperson, teach other people how to make millions of dollars and be great salespeople. Now I'm getting more into like EBITDAs and evaluation and how companies are bought and sold. And I want to be able to have that conversation a decade from now where someone comes to me with a $300 million check and I'm deliberating whether I want to walk away or not. Those are cool problems to have. And I think it's really possible. It's still not easy, but it's there. I can see it, as opposed to back then where it was like, hey, I made 40 grand this month. I am slaying it. You know what I mean? It's even hard to explain conceptually of like, it's not about you or even your income anymore. It's about the growth and feeding this giant organism that is your business. And a lot of the times, like, dude, I would say for 15, 16 months, I didn't take a distribution at all. I just watched the account get bigger. And then we spent a lot. And then I watched the account get bigger. And then we spent a lot. But like me, Pete, I probably haven't taken more than, 10 grand out of the company over the.
How did you build that discipline? Or is it not discipline? What is it like?
One, I'm a weirdo in terms of like, I don't want the corporate accounts to be under X, like ever. And if they are, I got to go get Y to add to it. So I even had that this week. I was like, oh shit, we're below XYZ amount. Let me make a few phone calls. I think I could sell a few policies on my own. And then I have to like reel it back and be like, this is not your job, Pete. You should not be doing this, but like, you can't turn it off. So I think that's an important aspect. Like even from day one, from being in all that debt, I'm a spender, like personally, I like watches and fancy shit.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Right.
Nothing.
Yeah. So I always needed like 7 checking accounts as a person before I even had an LLC, because if I saw too much in one account, I would be like, oh, I'm rich. So with this, I can't let the account get below X or I start to like get hives. So I think that's been important. Plus, like, I appreciate Meg. She still works. She has a W-2 job. She does really well at it. I had a lot of savings saved up. So I didn't really need personally the money. So here and there, like if we needed to add to the joint or whatever, like I would take a withdrawal from the company, but I mean, less than 2% of our net income I've taken out. You know what I mean?
Think that gives a level of like, what impact do you think that's had on the people?
Oh, it's been huge.
Working for you.
It's been huge because like I'm able to run contests. I'm able to do appreciation events. We go out to a really nice event every last Wednesday of the month when people come in for training. I'm able to try different lead resources and marketing campaigns for them. And they have I'm not a tyrant. They can come in and be like, hey, we tried these leads for like 60 days. They're not really good. I'm like, all right, fuck it. Turn the campaign off. You know what I mean? And I know they can be honest with me and I can be honest with them. And I know when they're complaining, I think versus real, making valid concerns. So that's helpful. But it really gives you power in your bit. And I don't want to like put this out there, like you need all this money to be able to start, but that cushion starting out really will help you. And it doesn't have to be much. If you look at your mandatory comfort zone and you have that in the bank for 12 months, start the damn business. You can go at least a year before shit hits the fan. So it'll be okay. If you don't, and you got like $5 grand laying around, maybe you want to sell stuff still and get that up or get that savings up before you actually invest in something for yourself.
You're talking about events and the people in this way. How's the culture evolving? What's your advice to the audience on how to do it? What's your way of doing it? What do you see?
If you are not, and don't take this the wrong way, audience, because I get stressed, but if you are not financially stressed on a daily basis and you have a little bit of comfort where you just know your vision and pace is moving forward and you're not worried about the bill or the credit card or the marketing expense or the new hire or whatever. And I don't feel that on a daily basis. Like there's going to be a random Thursday night where I'm like, oh shit, we spent too much on blah, blah, blah. It happens to everybody. But if it's not your main concern of like giving your business life support on a daily basis, you can really instill a phenomenal culture into your people because you're doing things ethically, morally. You're teaching them how to build a business because you, ipso facto, are building one yourself. So it's like training your future self in the rears almost. And that's where like we talked on the last podcast about like this ticky-tack sales bullshit that occurs in our industry. And there's a lot of scumbags out there and blah, blah, blah. That stems from needing money. Like that's the only reason, that or greed, either way. And if you don't need to have either one of those in your business, that's the bare bones construction for a phenomenal culture. Because like I've told agents to walk away from sales, like that's going to charge back, or they don't need that, or don't worry about this person, continue, move on. As opposed to me being like, man, I really could have used that.
Is it because you're able to say no easier?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. And I'm able to, and therefore, like I've obviously done something right in business over the course of the last 12, 13 years that I've been doing this. So they know that they can formally believe me when I say, you don't need that sale. Don't push them. You don't, go get a different one. Because I've done that. And look where I am. And if your goal is to be me or supersede me, come along with my advice, because I promise I won't teach you anything that doesn't work. You know what I mean?
Wow. What are you most excited about in 2024?
Oh man, so many things. So we started we put out this recruiting video maybe 2-3 months ago now, maybe 2 months ago now. My videographer filmed it, came out great. And we started 4 different compensation structures within All Things Insurance Group. So that way we could get a college kid or a high school grad that doesn't necessarily want to go to college, but needs some sort of stable income, or someone transitioning to the insurance industry and they're really scared of losing a salary. We now have base plus commission with free leads. We have free leads, 100% commission. We have finance leads, meaning we'll take your marketing expenses out of future commissions. And then we still have the broker route, which is full-blown entrepreneur, which is like the status quo of the industry. So now from a growth standpoint, we have 16 people currently on the, I'll call them the different compensation structures internally with free marketing expenses. We're planning on having 30 by the end of next month. And I want to grow that to 100 over the course of the next 12 months. So we'll have 100 technically ATIG agents, right? All Things Insurance Group internal agents, and then hopefully 1,000 plus brokers. But we want to give the opportunity to people to basically try the industry out without a giant amount of risk on their own plate. So I'm pretty excited for the growth opportunities of that. And it's cost me a lot of money to be able to construct those because I'm gambling. Every agent that we bring on with free marketing is a $1,500 a week expense. So you're hoping they sell. But with our training and our mentorship, lead systems and our tech and everything, they will.
What's the demand like right now?
Sorry.
The demand, I read last time we had talked, with the pandemic and the general the SVB, there's when there's these, from what I learned from you, these macro uncertainties create consumer interest in, I almost forgot we were talking about insurance, right? So, by the way, like, I feel better because I know that if I'm gone, well, no, that's not really what I'm concerned about. I'm worried about her. If she's gone, I'm
Right.
rich. Because
Yeah.
my significant other, she's gonna be fine. If I go, she'll be successful. Like, she's
Yeah.
gonna crush it. Yeah, especially with all our relationships that we have, like, they would all die. She'd make more money, frankly. I just realized, talking right now, I'm the liability.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, shit, dude. Wow, she gets 100%. So yeah, just so everyone knows, like, Pete helped our family with our, a big part of the need, in my mind, of hedging the future, and part of that's life insurance.
Sure.
So that's an exciting thing that I would challenge everybody in the audience to look into that. Like, what the heck are you doing? There's like some unspoken power that comes from that, I think, like, we could talk about. But what my question was about the demand, the consumer interest, because last time we talked,
Yes.
when things are uncertain, people become more likely to want life insurance or investments for the future. And so my question to you is how's the consumer demand right now?
It's been outstanding. I don't think it ever really pulls back for the most part. Like, if you have a slow month in this industry, I think it's due to your work ethic or maybe lack thereof, because there's never really a pullback. Like, I'm sure Ferrari sees one when the market crashes, or Bic Pens, has a pullback or whatever. But like, from our standpoint, demand really either stays status quo and you got to push, or it gets bigger. And right now, economy wise and administration wise and world wise, like, there's so much uncertainty. And if you're wrapped up in it on a daily basis, you're probably like a shaking chihuahua as a consumer. So I think right now, we have a lot of people coming to us for like fixed rate things like annuities or life insurance, gaining fixed rate of returns, because they're unsettled. We don't know what's going to happen in 2024. We got about a year and a half left. What the hell is going to lead into 2024? And again, we're not the end all be all for their entire portfolio of quote unquote investments or financials. We're just selling the guarantees, right? So if you take a small sliver of your portfolio and stick it with us, you can gamble with crypto.
Let me make sure I follow you. I read this Tony Robbins book about an annuity, and it's you put the money through insurance. It's going to the insurance company, and they're going to pay you forever till you graduate to the eternal.
Yes. So that would be an income annuity. So you're basically taking, let's say, $100,000 and you're investing it with the insurance company, right? You're purchasing an immediate income annuity, let's say, and that 100,000 is going to generate, I don't know, depends on your age, but 12 grand a year forever. So if you live 8 years, you beat the insurance company. And then if you don't, there's a death benefit that still goes to your beneficiary. So that's an example of one annuity. And we see a lot of people, 10,000 people turn 65 every day. So Medicare is huge, annuities are huge, but we see a lot of people rolling over portions of their portfolio, their 401k, maybe just their savings account into this vehicle that's
Is the idea to hedge from the volatility of the market. So if the principal goes down for a period of time, the dividend will shrink or blah, blah, blah. So like they want to have that fixed income.
Yeah, and think about it from annuities are mostly for retirees or people leading into retirement, right? I don't think I would sell a 20-year-old an annuity. Maybe some listener can educate me on why they would do that. But
well, obviously, that's going to cover their World of Warcraft subscriptions.
Yeah.
I want to stay in the home with my mother in the basement, and I just like to pay my Warcraft. Sorry, I should stop talking at this point. That's the only thing that I thought. All those millennials that don't want to leave the basement, they get that monthly check.
Right, exactly. It's like a pension for themselves to play video games.
If I was a professional, gamer, I'd be annuitied all day. I was getting all that money coming in, just annuity. Anyway, sorry, that was from like the dark past.
Yeah, so the volatility, right? 50, 55, 60, 65-year-olds, you want more guaranteed money. Back in the day, it used to be like, let's switch everything to bonds, right? Now, you're not only protecting it against volatility, but if you're in the point in time where, let's say you're 65 years old and you're not working anymore, and you see a 40% rip in your 401k and you go from 200 grand to 120 real fast, well, you're not contributing anymore. So how the hell are you going to make that up? So instead of risking that happening, because it will happen before you die, 9.9 times out of 10, you'll go through a recession some point during retirement, unless you die really quick after you retire.
Terrible, yeah.
Take a portion of that and stick it into something that will guarantee your interest rate and will also protect you against volatility that you will never get back. You know, I've seen people with $2, $3, $4 million in their 401k. They get a 40-50% cut. Now you're down to $1 million and there's no recovery, because
and depending how it's taxed, they could even, like, if it's taxed, it's like right, where you have to do the RMD, required distribution.
Yep, required minimum distribution. So you're basically, there's no hedge if you're leaving it in investments at all. And you need to be hedging, because at that point in your life, you need guarantees.
Do you find that the wealthier people look at the idea of diversification isn't just, all right, I buy this stock or this stock. It's, I have equities. I also have bonds. I also have different insurances that I'm stacking.
I'll make
I know you interact with some wealthier people.
I'll make a slightly condescending comment right now. Wealthy people don't really have 401ks. Is what I've intended.
Why not? What yeah, you meet people every day, and you have these conversations around their finances. So if you're saying that, what are you learning from meeting?
Yeah, a lot. And like wealthy, I'll put in air quotes, means a lot to a lot of different people, right? But like we may run into $1 million 401k, 1.5, maybe $2 million. Maybe they had deferred comp plans or whatever. But when I had a 67-year-old the other day, the guy's probably worth, I don't know, $20-25 million. And it's a lot from real estate. He owned a business. He worked for corporate. He had a lot of deferred comp, stock options, etc. So his wealth is spread out. But he was joking. He was like, I had a 401k for like 10 years. And then I don't even know what happened to it. I rolled it into a self-directed IRA and then took a SEP and then did this, and eventually it went away. Because a 401k, in all intensive purposes, is basically a financial product that they tricked us into investing in. It's a set it and forget it, even though it shouldn't be, because you have to reallocate that son of a bitch like every 6 months or 12 months. But whoever came up with the 401k is an evil genius, because you got a lot of lower, middle, and upper middle class people just feeding this fund portions of their paycheck every week, never looking at it. And then they get to 65 and they're like, man, I hope I have a bunch of money. And they're like, man, I got 800,000 for the rest of my life. And maybe you're going to live till you're 80. So what the hell is that going to do? So diversification, I think, is really important when you get into that upper middle class, rich, wealthy, whatever adjective you want to use. A lot of lower middle class and middle class people have 401ks. And I'm not saying don't do it. If it's your only investment vehicle and you're not going to watch stocks or bonds, or you're not going to invest in Bitcoin, and you make 65 grand a year and you want to, put 5% of that into your 401k, do it. That's what it's there for. But you're not going to see a retirement or a happy retirement usually stem from utilizing just your 401k funds.
What about our generation? Like, have you coming across people that are really thinking about these things? And like, is there excitement around this in the industry? I'm not familiar as much really at all with the industry,
Our generation is so weird. So I would say this is ours, and also slightly above and slightly below. So I'm going to put an age bracket on it between 22 and probably 40. Everybody thinks they have the answer. And it's through social media and TikTok and Instagram posts and reels, and people are clickbaiting everybody. And the problem that our generation is going to have, or 22-year-olds to 40-year-olds, I don't even know what that encompasses, Gen Z to millennial to whatever the hell, right? 22 to 40-year-olds are going to have analysis paralysis in terms of investment, and they're going to get to 45, 50 years old, and they're going to have nothing.
You think so, huh?
Because I'm in all these Facebook groups for like luxury watches and cars and investments. And I like hearing other people's advice, and everybody's investment strategy has to be based on them. There's no right answer. You know, it's whatever your risk tolerance is. Maybe it's coming from some advice of an advisor or whatever the case may be, but it's got to be customized to you. So like, someone will post, you know, I got $500 extra a month to put into something. What do I do with it? Right away, someone's like, a REIT, Bitcoin, Pokemon cards. I might say life insurance, whatever. There's no right answer. And then what that person does is take in all that information, and then nothing happens to the $500.
Well, they spend it.
Or they spend it. So fucking pick something is the point. You know what I mean? And whether it's going to be life insurance, annuities, investments, Bitcoin, etc., it all depends on your risk tolerance, but you have to pull the trigger on something. And, you know, my little sales pitch, I don't think more than 10% of your gross income should go into like any product that I sell. Maybe you want to do 10% into an IUL or a whole life policy or a UL or whatever the case may be, or later on a lump sum annuity payment, whatever the case may be. And I won't get into the weeds of insurance jargon, but we're only taking a sliver. So give us the sliver for the guarantee. The other 90%, play with it, do something. But the hard part is you're digesting all these opinions from all these different thought leaders. And then you wind up waking up and it's 2 years from now and you still have 12 grand in your checking account that you could have invested somewhere and you just didn't. You know what I mean?
You see that
all the time in that age bracket, 22 to 40, all the time.
You know, in the exception of that rule, what's that look like?
So, I mean, I deal with all walks of life, from like broke people to rich people to whatever, everywhere in between. The key is to pick something and run with it. So even somebody that's making, you know, I talked to somebody the other day that was making like 38 grand a year, that was working in a restaurant down here. And we were doing a life insurance policy for her and her kid, single mom, making like 38,000, whatever. And we just talked about like her discretionary income. And I was like, what are you doing with that? And she was like, well, I have a Robinhood account or whatever, and I just auto contribute $100 a month, and it's all I can really afford right now. And I was like, great, just continue doing that. And I'm not a financial advisor, so I'm not going to give you stock advice, but I high-fived her and I was like, good for you. Now we're going to buy this term policy. God forbid you croak in the next 20 years and your kid doesn't reach college age, because I think he was 6 at the time. So covered him until age 26. Small term, it's all she could afford, whatever. We did like 10 times her income, and she's good from a protection standpoint. But the nice thing that I saw is someone that we would consider not making a lot of money, still doing something from an investment standpoint, which I think is super important. Because if you don't start now, you're never going to either. It's not like, oh, I'm going to make more money and then I'll start saving some. That never happens, ever. You make more money. If you're a spender, you wind up spending more money.
How familiar are you with that idea of the lifestyle creep?
Oh my God, I'm a walking billboard for it. It's terrible, you know, because
that's hilarious.
I will give some advice to either young entrepreneurs or people that are getting out of a job and maybe transitioning to entrepreneurship. My biggest problem was you're leveling up all aspects of your life, and you can't do that. Like, I was listening to Rob Dyrdek the other day, and dude's an evil genius when it comes to like systems and processes and whatever. And he was saying he only makes his coffee with Fiji water now. Like, that's his benchmark. Like, he just likes the way it tastes. So he has nonstop supply of Fiji water for his coffee machine, and that's a thing. But the dude also wears like $600,000 watches. He drives a Ferrari, whatever, and he's making hundreds of millions of dollars. So that's okay. If you're at the point where you're making $150, 200, 300, 400, 500,000, You can't be like, I'm going to wear a $100,000 watch. I'm only going to buy Yeezy sneakers. I'm going to live in a palace. I'm going to only drink Fiji water. Like, there's got to be.
No, you need dirty water, dirty water.
Yeah. There's got to be benchmarks that you set for yourself that are very important that will propel you forward versus keeping up with the Joneses and leveling up every portion of your lifestyle. You know what I mean? Like, my biggest thing is I hate manual labor. I would rather pay the maintenance man that lives in our neighborhood that's retired to hang a picture and do it correctly, $20, than ever figure out how to drill into a wall. It just makes no sense to me. Why the hell would I do it? My time is better served doing other things. And he makes money and I'm fueling the economy. So it's great, right? So that's a benchmark for me. You have to create your own benchmarks. Pick 1 to 2. Hey, when I reach this income level, I'm never shopping at Target ever again. Or I'm never driving a car that's under $30,000. Or I'm never doing that. Like, I have one, I don't not fly first class ever. I do it every time. And I've said this on multiple podcasts. That was just my benchmark. And I got it from Steve Harvey. He was like, buy a first class ticket one time and you'll earn enough money to never not buy one ever again. And it works. So like, anytime you see an Instagram post from me, I hold myself accountable. I always post from almost the same seat every time. I get right side aisle, first chair, first class. And that's my benchmark. That doesn't mean I'm also driving a Ferrari. I can't afford to do both right now. So you can't play that game of leveling up every aspect of your life when you're building a business for yourself.
Well, I'd like to clarify something. If because this was brought up this morning on a podcast, I'll tell you said I can't afford it. Well, if you or me convince ourselves that our business can pay for it, you could actually be paying for that Ferrari right now.
I could.
Like, meaning there's a lot of people that are doing that right now. And the reason I bring that up is this morning I did an episode with a good friend, Peter Galetta, and he was talking about, he does merchant processing, and he was saying, dude, these business owners, like, they're confusing what they get with what the business is earning. So then they'll have the boat and then this and then that on there. And of course, there's a level of like, there's a deeper complex issue there of like what your accountant is asking you to do and not do and based on it. But the point is, like, I think it's important to outline that is that you're self-aware, it sounds like, of the distinction between the business and you. And like, I've even said this to our people that we work with, you know, our employees, like, I work for Culture Matters.
Right.
I'm a slave to Culture Matters. Like, and that's a bit radical, hyperbolic, you know, dramatic way to say it, but like, you know, that anyway, I'm just so tuned into the same philosophy. I got a question on that. Actually, go ahead. So
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say too. I like nice shit. It makes me feel good, and it makes me want to earn more money. Like, I am a proponent of, like, if I can afford the thing, the watch, the car, the shoes, whatever, it will force me, because it will put me in a good state of mind to go earn that back real quick, right? I'm not saying you need a couple of $1 million in the bank before you buy a Rolex, but if you know you can spend it, earn it, and then go get it, that's important. But I also like the delayed gratification of, like, why would I incrementally level up certain aspects of my life when I'm gearing up to sell maybe for $300 million later on, or whatever the goal is, or I'm making $15-20 million a year and I don't have to sell? Then I can do whatever the fuck I want. It doesn't matter, right? So you need a certain aspect of, like, this feels good, I'm going to reward myself, but it's got to be in the micro, because the macro should be that long-term goal of, if I do sell or I get the business doing X, Y, Z, then I start taking $1 million a month salary. That's a shit ton of money. I can do whatever I want. So at that point, I level up all the other aspects of my business. Just do the things that are important to you now while you're creeping up the income chain, you know?
You think the risk is the risk as being an employer has a relationship with the personal lifestyle of the employer?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean,
I was just thinking at the beginning of the conversation, how you were saying, like, hey, we're good. We've got liquidity. Like, the people know that there's certain things, like, I'm making decisions. If we were, so anyway, yeah, go ahead. What are your thoughts on that?
Like, in terms of, and I just want to make sure I'm understanding you correctly. Like, I would sell this watch before I would let my agent suffer with no leads. If that's what you're
Yeah,
talking
like that. So that's actually a good place. That becomes a philosophical conversation, essentially. Like, what kind of culture do we want?
Yeah, because
Right? There's a level of personal subjectivity. So there's the type of person that would say, no, my thing is way more important than everybody around me. And then there's someone say, it's not that at all. And there's somewhere in the middle of those two extremes kind of thing. So yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so
Connected.
I want to make sure I don't have to do that, right? First and foremost, but like the business thriving because it's such like a valuable asset is way more important than shoe, car, watch, whatever. So if we were in dire straits, I wouldn't be looking out there and being like, you have to make me more money. I would go sell a watch in my collection or whatever to ensure that we don't go out of business or we don't have leads that week or whatever the case may be. Because at the end of the day, like, they're not working for you. Like you said, you're working for them. And I want them to build their life however they see fit. If they only want to make 80 grand this year, I will high five the shit out of them. If they want to make $350,000 this year, all the more power to you. But like, no one's in here on a Sunday but me. And I don't expect them to be.
Yeah.
That's part of their job description. If they want to be, hell, more power to you. Love it. And I give you a key to the door. But I think it's very important to make sure that your business is your most important asset. Like if dire straits happened, would you downsize your house in order to have the business thrive? Would you sell your boat? Right? I don't have a boat. I'm not a boat guy, but would you sell your boat? Would you sell your Rolex? Would you, start not eating out every week, whatever the case may be? Because if you don't have that mindset, you're not really prepared to scale something to the level that you should be. And again, to each their own. If you want a business that's generating $300,000 a year and that's your cap and you're happy and you can go buy whatever the hell else you want with 300 grand, great. But like, I know I'm going to have to infuse capital. And if for some bad week, bad month, bad quarter, I have to personally come up with that money because it's my company solely.
Yes.
I'll do whatever it takes to do that.
I thought of this. I'm curious your thoughts on this. Like, we have to grow if we're going to employ people because their life is wrapped up in this, meaning that, like in our country, the upward mobility idea.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have, and this is true, I didn't have because of the scarcity in my adolescence, I want success. So like this culture is given an opportunity to start that business, to work, as much as I want, to aim for things. Our business is analogous then in the sense that if I'm not growing Culture Matters, my employees they're going to hit a lid to what they can grow in. And then I'm like letting them down implicitly. So then I have to decide, what do I want? How do I want it? And like, I don't know, I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. Like, it has to be growing at all times, any business at some level, or else you're going to let down the people that believe in you in the first place.
Yeah. And you have to be able to use that as a weapon, but not also harp on it. Because like I have super ADHD. If I go down the rabbit hole of JB and Sean and Devin and everybody, and then their spouses or their children all rely on me, I might crawl up in a fetal position and cry. You know what I mean?
Wait, hold on. It's not just them. In 1,000 years, they're going to be saying, that employer. No, I'm just kidding.
Right. Exactly.
You need to go farther down the family tree, my friend. You're a culture guy.
Yeah, 100%. But you have to be able to use that as a weapon to say, like, wow, their dreams are not necessarily your dreams, and vice versa. I got people that work here that don't want to make $100 million. They can't even conceptualize that. That's totally okay. But I want to make sure that they can buy their kids Christmas presents. So I can't suck ever. And if I do, I got to fix it fast because they are solely relying on.
That's really good.
Financially.
That's great at self-awareness. Like, because I often find that I've thought about this and said that there's people that really in our position, especially those that are positioned in front of the crowd, like authorities, content creators, speakers,
Mhm.
we I have to be very careful not to self-impose my beliefs or desires on everybody around me.
Sure.
Yeah, like, because of course I've done that. And it's
Yeah,
like, ooh,
me too.
I'm a bad leader if I'm doing that. And I was a bad leader. Like, of course, yeah, the irony in that is like, yeah, culture matters. Of course, because I was a bad leader, I started getting interested in culture. Like, so
Yeah.
yes, I was bad. That's why I'm trying to be good. But I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. Like, yeah.
Yeah. So part of the reason I did this is a good stem back to what we were talking about before with my exercise. Part of it too is realizing that you have to have empathy with each employer or each employee, or I have a shit ton of 1099. So technically they're not employees, they're independent contractors, but I need to know their comfort zone, their wealth zone, their mandatory bills. One, to hold them accountable to make sure that they're making sales or running their business effectively. And if we do a coaching call, I need to base my basis around that. But I also, to your point, can't be like, why are you not making $350,000 this year? Because they don't give a shit. They don't care. That's not their prerogative. They need to make 90, and they need all the help in the world in making 90, and then they will be happy. So not only are you their support system, but you have to be in tune with each person, at least to start, before you get team leads and you grow and you have hierarchies of, management. And then you got to teach that empathy to other people so they could be empathetic to their employees. And it's this vicious cycle, all the way down. But you have to be able to pinpoint that for each person, so that way you can help them along the way with get their goals respectfully and be relatable. Like I share my story probably on a monthly basis. Like, I've been poor as shit. I've had negative money. Like, I've had not no money. I've had negative money. You know what I mean? So like, I've been there, but I just want to take them on the journey that they want to be taken to. And some of them I can see like, hey, you're thinking this, you could go to here. And some of them, they're okay with just this. Maybe they left their corporate job and they just want the same salary, but they want a better work-life balance. Cool, whatever. I'm not here to be like, you need to make $1 million then for that specific person. And that's a hard thing to do, because you have your own goals. And then it's almost like you got to come back to reality and be like, this is not their goal or reality or whatever. It makes no sense to them. So that's a hard juggling act. And I'm not perfect at doing it.
I was asked, I've been thinking about this, like, it was a video that we put out, like, the entrepreneur giving life advice is an oxymoron.
Yeah, that's very good. Yeah.
Because frankly, I'm a sick person. That's why I'm doing this. And not to knock me, I'm just be too self-critical in a negative way. I'm proud of it. Like, what an exciting life for me, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, give it, like, there is another side of that story. It's like, what does my person know that I haven't figured out yet? Like, they're happy or something?
What is that?
Yeah, like, they really figure that out. And it just led to really spirited conversations with, like, our team, Pete, in closing, for part 3 here on the journey of all things insurance group, quote, we compete against the worst and to be the best. What did I say earlier? Damn it.
While being the best.
Yeah, there you go. At least culturally, I would agree with that for sure. I know it's still the beginning, but what do you want the audience to take away from this conversation? Because keep in mind, it is an uncertain time. There are people that are thinking like, damn, do I even have time to listen to these two Jersey jerk-offs? like, yeah, shout out to Jersey.
Yeah.
Pontificating of what their privilege here. Like, people are under stress, man. I know, because I'm listening to people, and we are too. We just have a plan and we're working hard,
Yeah.
So, like, let's say you're talking to someone that was where you were watching The Secret, right? You're their secret. What do they need to take away from this conversation?
Yeah, one, never, and I might have said this on the last episode or maybe the first one we talked about, but I think it's a very important quote, and I wish I could give accolades to whoever came up with it. But never allow the macro economy to affect your personal one, because it has nothing to do with anything. Yes, stocks can go down, the real estate market could be in shambles, whatever. These are all blips on the radar. In recessions, in pumping economies and bull markets and bear markets, you have the same opportunity as the person to the right and to the left of you, right? So it really doesn't matter. Everything in mass media, everything that's put out into the ether is 9 times out of 10 negative. So don't let the macro affect your micro. Focus solely on your micro. And then maybe you can pontificate to people, in 10, 15 years. But if you want to create something, do it yesterday. Whether it's an ice cream shop, an insurance agency, a car lot, a landscaping company, as long as it's profitable and it's a reasonable business plan and you're passionate as hell about it, start it. You can always go get a job. Lots of people have said that, but it's 100% true. You can always go get a job. You can't always start something.
You could always go to prison, free meals.
You can always go to prison.
God, I'm so sorry that I said that at the end.
You can always
did such a great job.
Meals. Yeah.
Yeah. Meaning you can go there and help people. Let's just put that,
Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
Sorry. Say one more thing so we can end on a good note. Help me out, man. I'm new to this.
But get it done. And just a couple things to realize. If you have 3 to 6 months of expenses, start your business. If it's a viable business plan, start your business. As long as it can be profitable within a certain time frame, and you know that if it's not, we're going to turn it off. And then if you're passionate as hell about it, that's the trifecta right there. If you have a couple of shekels in the bank that you can pay your mortgage and living expenses for maybe 3 to 6 months, maybe a year, if you're very risk adverse. If it's profitable and you're passionate, just do it yesterday. It'll be worth it, I promise. And it will make you happier later. We're stressed out all the time. If you call me or Jay, maybe at 5 a.m. or 9 p.m. at night, we may not be having a great day, but end all be all, entrepreneurship has been the happiest thing I've probably ever done. You know what I mean? In terms of the course of my life. Granted, my wife, my child, everything, all those outlying factors make me happy, but something that I did for myself, it wasn't necessarily going to school or playing racket sports or being a really good swimmer or whatever. It was creating something that hopefully will never go away. So yeah, just do it, like Nike would say.